In this video, we're gonna draw a still life and we're gonna work through all the phases of how to do that. So this still life is just gonna be a simple line drawing. We're not gonna do any shading, and we're gonna focus on how to block in our shapes and get them on the paper before adding too much detail. Because when you're drawing, if you start drawing and you add a whole bunch of detail and then you realize that something's wrong or not the right size, then you've got to erase all of that time and effort that you put into it and start over in order to fit things on the page better. I'm gonna look for a unit of measure, my standard unit of measure. That's the first thing that I'm gonna draw, and I wanna make sure it's correct because I'm gonna begin building off of that. And I'm thinking that I want to use the front facing square shape of the Jack-in-the-Box. So I got to figure out, where does that square go on my page? So I'm looking at the vertical line on the left hand side, and I'm trying to figure out where is that in relation to the center of the paper. So I can go as far as measuring the center of the paper if I want to. This paper is 9 inches by 12 inches, so 6 inches is the middle, so that's the center of my paper. And if I'm looking at the left-hand side face of that Jack-in-the-Box, it's to the left of center, so I know it's gonna be over here. It's also not completely vertical, it leans a little bit to the left at the top. So I'm just gonna put that in there, and now I'm gonna look at my line and think about it. I'm looking at where I have the top corner and where I have the bottom corner, how much space is up here, how much space is down here, and I'm comparing that to my photo reference. And I'm looking at how I feel like this space needs to be, this has too much space, so I'm gonna bring this up just a little bit. Now, I'm comparing this space to the size of my Jack-in-the-Box, and that feels right. I'm gonna start working on this line. I'm gonna look at the angle first before I draw it, and it looks like it's not flat, it's angled up a little bit to the right. So I'm gonna try to match that angle. And now I'm gonna look back and forth from my reference image to my drawing and decide where this line stops. I'm comparing this size of the line to this size of the line. And I'm gonna make that corner stop right about here. I'm also comparing this space to this space. In the photo, this space is bigger than the negative space right here. So I feel good about making that where that corner is gonna go. Now we're gonna look at the red block. I'm gonna look at where I think it touches this line. So I'm looking from between here and here, and it looks like it's not quite the middle, it's maybe a little bit higher up, so maybe right here. So I'm gonna mark that so I don't have to keep thinking about it. Then I'm gonna look and see, what does that angle look like? So before I continue, I'm gonna look and compare. There's a lot of thinking and judging and evaluating. Is that angle right? And I'm looking and I'm thinking it needs to be a little bit more like this. Before I erase it, I'm gonna go ahead and draw the second line. Sometimes when you erase it and then draw the next line, you end up redrawing the exact same line that you drew before. Sometimes I'll draw true verticals and true horizontals to figure out where something is. So right now, if I look at the yellow block, where that corner is, where the bottom right corner of the yellow block is, I'm trying to figure out where in space that is. And I'm thinking it's here. If I drew a straight line across parallel to the bottom edge of the paper and look at where it hits other things, that might be useful later because I might be looking to see where it would hit the Jack-in-the-Box and how much space is between that and the actual square from the Jack-in-the-Box. So I'm thinking that feels right, comparing that space to everything else across. So I feel like that's a good spot for that corner. That feels correct. I'm constantly comparing. Is this hand crossing where it should on the box? Are the fingers, if I draw a straight line across, it looks like the fingers come just a little bit below this red block. So if I stop them here, is that great? And you see how I'm drawing the shape of the hand first? I don't want to draw every individual finger and then realize they're all too short. If I got them all perfect, which is going to be hard because this hand is going to be difficult to draw, I don't want to draw them all, get them perfect, and then find out they're too small. So I'm figuring out where all of that's gonna fit, what shape that will fit into, and I'm drawing that first, making sure I feel good about the accuracy of that. And then I'm gonna draw each individual finger within that space. So at this point, I feel like everything is blocked in. It's blocked in fairly successfully. There's a few things that I might change or fix as I start adding details, but for the most part, I've got my big shapes. Everything fits. Everything seems mostly proportionally correct. I didn't like draw everything too big over here and then have to squish everything over here to fit it on the paper. Everything like fits the paper really well. It fills the space nicely. There's not that much negative space, and the negative space that there is interesting. It feels balanced. So I'm pretty happy with my blocked in composition. So if you are taking a class with me and I ask you to submit your blocked in drawing, this is what I'm asking for. The next stage is to start going in to add some of your details. So at this point, you can zoom in a little bit on your picture because you've already got all of the big shapes, so you don't need to see the whole large image at the same time. So you can zoom in, really see some of those details and start getting some of those in. Another thing to think about at this stage is line quality. So because this is just going to be a line drawing, we are going to depend on our line weight to tell information about the subject. So there are several strategies that you can use to choose where to put thinner or thicker lines. One strategy is light. So the light is coming from the left-hand side in the image. So this edge of the square is receiving more light than this edge. So in this strategy, you are making darker lines where things are in shadow. And then you're keeping your lines lighter on the side where it's receiving light. Another strategy is to use more darker lines on objects that are close up, and that gives the illusion that things are getting farther as they get light, like things farther away are lighter. You can even, like this line right here, I could choose to start off dark and move to light. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to use the ruler since it's a block and it's got a straight line. Help clean that line up a little bit. I'm using a 6B right now. I'm pressing harder at the front and then I'm gradually pressing lighter and lighter as I go to the back. So you can see how that line is gradual. What you don't want is short, choppy, like a dark line, a light line, a dark line, a light line. That's not gonna be as aesthetically pleasing.